I have a rule of thumb with Project 981, my Boxster GTS. To touch the car is to improve the car. But is this approach the best way to a better car? Or is it a fettling philosophy too far? Welcome to Project 981 and welcome back to the channel on this lovely autumn day here in the UK. So my Project 981 philosophy is one of continual improvement on the car. This is my car, it's a 2015 Porsche Boxster GTS. It is 10 years old, it's done about 54,000 miles, it's long out of warranty. Things are starting to age a little bit, a bit of wear and tear is creeping in. So that means every time a job is necessary, or indeed desirable, there is an opportunity to add some improvement, realise some gains. Now, improvement, of course, is wonderfully subjective. That's the beauty of doing your own channel on your own car. Does it mean lighter or faster, more durable, closer to OEM, further from OEM? All lovely choices to have and choices I get to make because it's my car. If you've been watching the channel for a while now, though, you'll have probably gathered that I'm at or around the OEM plus mark. So there are no hard and fast rules with my philosophy. It's kind of more a philosophy than a doctrine. But it's good fun to have a target to aim for. And as it says in my channel description, that target for me at least is sort of flat 6, drop top heaven with the 981 as my starting point. Now, in recent videos, I've highlighted a few things that need doing to the car. So I'm going to take you through what I have recently done to the car by way of bringing to life that philosophy, giving you a flavour for how I approach things and a few practical hints and tips to go with that. Okay, we're going to start by getting the car up on the jacks. Let's crack on. So as I set about getting the car jacked up to show you what's been done, let me use the magic of the edit to whisk you back to William Francis, where I was a week or so ago. I needed some work done on the brakes and the steering, and I had an opportunity to do some improvements to the wheels. So let's go and have a quick look at that. I'll get this prepped for you. Right, so it's going home time at William Francis, but just a quick look around the car before we go. So first things first, we've got some newly spaced wheels. I will reveal the dimensions of the spaces later, but there we go. That's looking very tidy. Start of 10, see how that goes. And in there we've got, well, this is the back, so we've got stainless bleed nipples, and there's a braided hose in there somewhere, but I can't see it just now, so we'll have to look at that later. And then we've got new discs and pads on the front, so those are, well, they're new. Not much to say about that. New discs and pads, which is all very nice. And spaces on the front too. And then I've had a full geo set up for the suspension. I'll show you the numbers later on that. But yeah, really good and lovely chat with Sam and an owner, Charlie here. Always a pleasure to come down here, which looks fairly agricultural because it is literally on an old farm, but there's some tasty metal here, which we can have a little look at just by turning around. And appropriately enough, just to my right is a manual 4-litre 718. Right, let's get this down the road. I want to go and see how the steering now is with the geo changed and the spacers and the brakes, and happy days. So hopefully next shot will be me with the wheels off. We have a poke around the wheel arch and see what we've managed to achieve. But for now, it's going home time. So car now prepped, obviously back from William Francis, and two things have changed. Well, the first is that the wheels are off, and the second is that it's a bit windy, so hopefully not too much noise being picked up on the camera. Let's go and have a look at that front wheel arch, and you can see a brand new front disc. I tend to call these rotors, maybe that's because I used to do mountain biking. Discs and pads, there they are, fairly standard, not yet fully bedded in, but obviously I've washed the car, so the standard Porsche brake disc rust is present and correct. But just there in the background you can see the continual improvement, which is an upgrade on all four corners to the Goodrich braided hoses. There they are, running from obviously the fixed pipe from here into the back of the assembly for the hub, and then down into the back of the brake caliper itself. So that replaces the OEM flexible rubber hose, the idea being that it's more resistant to flex under compression, so when your foot's on the brake pedal pushing that hydraulic brake fluid into the caliper, this should flex less and give you better brake feel. So more of your movement from your thigh goes into the brake pistons. here. So that's the continual improvement to the car on having had the front brake discs and pads upgraded. No change to the rear. They look a bit tired, but they've still got plenty of material on them, so those haven't been changed, those being the rotors and the pads. But there's the rear hose. You can see a slightly different configuration coming out from the back of the wheel arch, getting down into the back of the caliper. I think this is the one of those lines is the handbrake, and one is the sensor, the pad wear sensor. But I think this one's the handbrake. Anyway, there we go. So that is the rear wheel arch. So you can see that the continuous improvement philosophy has added those braided brake lines to the car on the opportunity, I should say, of having to have the brakes replaced. With the wheels off, there's also a chance to do a couple of other jobs. I'm going to just make sure my brackets are greased up for the exhaust, but also that little silver arm there, I think you can just see, there we go, pointing at it there. That's a little levelling sensor. I think there's one on each corner of the car, there's one on the front axle too. I'll just see if I can make sure that's nice and loose. Maybe get a bit of grease into that sort of top ball joint. These are the little link arms attached to a sensor which tells the car, gives it its spatial orientation, up, down, left, right, pitch and roll, which is important for, among other things, the headlight levelling and so on and so forth. So that is that. Now, I did also do a quick post when I got back from William Francis saying spot the difference, and the difference was, as some of you spotted, spacers. So I've also taken the opportunity, there's a continual improvement theme, to add some spacers to the car. Front axle, here we are again. I've got greasy fingers now. Right, let's point to this. So I've gone for a car going past. I've gone for a 7mm. Here we go. Here it is, a 7mm spacer for that. That goes on sort of kind of like that. And cleverly, and I'll put this on properly later, don't worry folks, cleverly, it's being 7mm, it retains, there's just enough of these shoulders sticking out from the body of the rotor to retain the concentricity needed to locate the wheel centrally on the hub. So we don't have to worry about that. I will show you the bolts in a moment. So 7mm on the front, and then on the rear, which is actually on the wheel, not on the hub presently, is a 15mm. And we've gone for a black one on the rear, but you know, hey, it doesn't really matter too much. So black to match the black satin wheels. That's a 15mm. Again, this is a full concentric with shoulders on the inside here of the spacer, pushing the wheel out again. So continuing improvement. This is definitely an aesthetic improvement. It's not really any performance here. I don't think adding spacers demonstrably improves the handling of the car. It does make the track wider, front to rear, of course, or indeed left to right, I should say, the track generally. But 15mm at the back is probably about as most you want to do. 7mm, I think some people go to 10 on the front, but that's fine. I'm kind of happy with that. So we have done new brakes and discs on the front axle, braided hoses, and taken the opportunity to put some spacers on. So that is the continual improvement philosophy in action at this point in time. Now, you may recall I had some sill plugs missing if you've watched an earlier video. Let's just remind ourselves of where that is. There's one missing, there it is, in there, upside down with the camera. So the next job is to get the sill off, which I've done before in my drain plug video. It's a little bit of a faff, but I'm not going to bore you with that on video. You can go and find that previous video if you want to see how that happens. I'm going to whip it off, and then I'm going to try and add in the new sill plugs. Oh, I mentioned bolts. Let me just show you the bolts. Here they are. When you put spacers on, you need to put deeper bolts, longer bolts. Here we go. Fairly self-explanatory. OEM, and then the new longer ones, both still with the shoulder, the collar, and obviously black, matching my black wheels. So there we go. Bolts, spacers, brakes, hoses, and then let's get those sill plugs sorted out. Where are they? Down here somewhere. Sill plugs. And if I'm getting my shit together at the end of this video, I might even talk about that. And I've just realised I've forgotten to mention the final little continual upgrade, which is stainless steel brake bleed nipples. Now, these aren't potentially the best metal on metal, but they're better than the originals. some previous chat. Thank you, various contributors to comments about titanium being better for the metallic, the bimetallic interaction. But anyway, there we go. The originals are out. We've got stainless on all 4 calipers, both sides. So that is a nice little tweak and one less thing to worry about. And the sill is off with a bit of lens flare for added benefit. Okay, so the reason I'm getting the sill off is to access the underside where the sill plugs are. It's kind of ironic really. Remove the plugs to repair the plugs. And you can see there with the sill removed there's a body proud underneath. I think that's probably in focus. Now I've gone down the row, there's 8 of them, and I've checked that these are all kind of in place. So it's not obvious why the black plastic bits were falling out. 2 of them, ironically not the 2 that I thought or that were missing, are kind of loose. So I've got 2 spares, I'm going to replace those. But let me just show you on a new one how these work. So the way these work is quite clever. This is a new one. Here's the male part, and the trick is basically it goes in at 90 degrees, and the act of forcing it in opens those shoulders, and then when you rotate it 90 degrees either way, left or right, I'll put my hand behind that so you can see that. The shoulders then, the 2 white sort of sides of the mountain grip onto the head of the screw, and it holds in place. So that's locked in. Then to remove it, turn it 90 degrees, it forces open the shoulders and you can pop it out. So this bit is just a simple press fit. So I'm going to put the 2 new ones in, replacing the ones that sort of seemed suspiciously loose, and then once those are in, taking care to then align these up, force it open, turn it, and it locks into place. So we're getting quite geeky now. That's a new one. It's popped in and it's absolutely rigid. So that's fresh plastic gripping nicely in the sill. This is an existing one. Here it is. That's pretty good, but it's definitely got a little bit of play in it. I've put that's another new one. Here's another older one. So yeah, I think the 2 that I've taken out, just spinning you around, viewers, the 2 that I've taken out are definitely had some wear and tear, and the trick now is, so we've now got a row of 8 mounts, and the trick is to get the male parts in the correct way, which is say 90 degrees to the sill. Here are the new ones. 90 degrees to the sill, and then lock them off. Well, here's a little YouTube secret. Everything is much quicker when you don't have to film it. So the sill's gone straight back on, as we saw. All the plugs are in. Everything's back and tidy in there. So that goes back down. Yeah, I mean, it's all there really, isn't it? Then the intakes are all lined up with the baffle. Wheel arch liners all back in. At the rear. Last look at the hose, everything greased up, it needs to be greased up. Front ready to receive its wheel, liners back on there too. Everything nicely lined up underneath. See my earlier video for reasons why to check that. And these little puppies I've talked about before on the channel, they're really useful for getting wheels on. And I'm going to use them to get the spacer on too. Pop the wheel on, front and back, tighten up, drop it down, torque them off, and then we're looking good. Now, if you've stayed with me this far in the video, thank you. I'm about to fire up the GTS, get everything up to temperature, get it down some local lanes, let everything settle. I've just taken the other wheel off as well, actually, get the car nicely bedded back in. And I'll briefly talk about the spacers, the geo setup, the steering map, and the brake feel. Briefly. I did tease this earlier, however, so a quick update. Not advertised in this video, but I know some of you have been quite interested in this. This is a PADM. This is actually a failed Porsche Active drivetrain mount. I've been calling them engine mounts. In the Boxster, I think these are actually attached to a bracket which attaches to the gearbox. I think in the 911s they do bolt straight to the back of the engine. Anyway, this is a broken one. The reason I've got it is because I'm kind of having a little plan forming with the team at William Francis. We're thinking of swapping out the sensor. There's some aftermarket sensors which many of you have highlighted, thank you. I'm going to have a go. I'm going to put one in here, we'll put it back on the car, taking out the one that's broken, see if it works, if it cures the error messages, so on and so forth. If it does, that could then be the route to just doing it properly. This is kind of a test, so we'll see. So more on that coming up, hopefully before the end of this year. But there we go, that's what they look like. They're quite heavy actually, heavier than I expect them to be, but I guess there's a lot of stuff going on in there. Anyway, enough drivetrain mount chat. Let's go down some lanes. So welcome to the Boxster. I'm heading down a lane. It's a blustery afternoon, but the roof is down because the sun is out and it's still quite mild. Okay, let's start with the steering. So it was quite obvious that my suspension geometry was all over the shop. The steering, the general front axle, rear axle, and so Sam did a full alignment job, and things have definitely improved. So the car is going straight down the road. It's going around, here's a little corner. It's going around corners extremely well. I think, so he did a couple of things. He put it back to baseline, so normal, for sake of argument. Then he dialed out a little bit of understeer, so what perhaps is lazily called fast road, mainly with the aim of just improving the turn-in. And then he accommodated those 15mm spaces on the rear just to make sure they weren't misbehaving in terms of compromising anything. The fronts, I don't think that 7mm spacer was too much of a concern, so that's gone in nicely. And I mean, the car now is probably steering us better than I've ever experienced it, which is to say, in my entire ownership. Here we are, some mid-pace stuff. I'm not going too fast, but just it goes where you point it. It's lovely, and it does turn in quite nicely. I don't think the spacers have anything to do with the turn in. I mean, in theory, a wider track, I don't know, but you know, we're talking very marginal here. I do think what's more significant is that now I've had the Geo properly sorted out, that the GT4 map, so the power steering map, can at last begin to, I can begin to judge it properly. So here we go, nice little tuck the nose in, steer it around, level it off from the gas. Yeah, I mean, it's going down the road very well. And I've said before that the GT4 map works well for me. I tried the GT3, I found it too heavy, so it removed too much assistance for my liking. But here we go down the road now with the 4, and it's great. I like a bit of resistance. I like the steering to feel heavy. It's probably not pure hydraulic feel in the sense that we know that from days of yore, my old 997 for example, but there is a little bit of movement. You know, the car is following the texture of the road, and you can sense that. So that's great. Some folk discussing the steering take the view that the Boxster, the Cayman, the 981 platform has steering that's too heavy. I mean, this is all subjective. I don't find it heavy. I like a bit of weight to work with. Not too much, because that's where the GT3 went wrong for me, that map, but I like a bit of weight. But if that's something you're not terribly excited by, you can get yourself a dongle, code the Power Steering Plus into your car, which gives you a bit more assistance at lower speeds. I mean, everything becomes easier at higher speeds. I used to have a K7, which had very heavy steering at low speeds because it had no power assistance. Well, it had quite sticky rubber on it too. But you know, get it above 30 miles an hour, it all smooths out. Most cars do. Anyway, so to the theme of continual improvement, I have basically got a full, decent Geo setup done on the car. I've put in that different power steering map. I think we can discount the spacers, and all is good. So my steering is lovely. The car is aiming down the road very well. I've got a little bit of feel to work with too. That's all super duper. So let's talk about the brakes. So I put effectively OEM discs and pads on the front, just so there was no upgrade there. I think I may have said upgrade earlier. There's no upgrade, just regular replacement disc and pad. The rear unchanged, and then those brake hoses. So Once I get my discs bedded in, that'll be kind of as new. And then the question is, do the brake hoses add a bit of extra feel? But to the theme of Porsche's brakes, Porsche don't over assist their brakes at the top of the pedal travel. They leave a little bit of progression in there on the assumption that we, the driver, us, the drivers, are happy to modulate our brake pressure and therefore our retardation by using our foot. So a lot of modern cars are, are they over assisted? It's all there at the top of the pedal and then off you go. Well, generally with the Porsche setup, certainly as I've experienced in different cars, you get a little bit of movement at the top of the pedal. Most people will touch the top of the pedal and go, it's not working, the brakes aren't working. You just have to push a bit further, a bit harder. And the harder you push, the more they work. So there's the progression. And the brake hoses just amplify that effect by transmitting more of your thigh power into the pistons. So I'm not expecting any massive transformation once the brakes do bed in, but I do think that the braided hoses will add just a little bit of sharpness and allow slightly more accuracy when modulating the brake pressure. And Porsche, being Porsche, have set it up so that when you're kind of mid-pressure on the brake pedal, the pedal has sunk to the same distance away from you as the throttle, so you can heel and toe, all the good lovely stuff that we like. So it's a familiar local road for me. I'm just going to stretch the car's legs, get a sense of how that steering's working, get all that suspension settled down, having jacked the car up. So 4th gear, using the torque, using about 3,000 RPM here, kind of at or around the national speed limit, which is just great because I can really focus now on steering the car, looking down the road, using the wheel and the throttle just to change my line. I've said before in this video, or my videos, that when you lean into the steering 10 miles down the road, you kind of forget about it. And all you're focusing on at that point then is the flow, where you're going, your change of speed, change of direction. You're not actually thinking about the steering wheel. And I think the 981 platform does that superbly well. Cheeky little change. And yeah, I mean, really, what is not to like? Yeah, the turning's good now. It's really sharp. Carrying quite a lot of speed around here. A little dab on the brakes. Drop down the hill. Let's just not go too heavy on those brakes. Nice and progressive. And you can be, I think one of the attractions of the brakes, having said that there's not a lot of assistance at the top, is if you just get your foot on the top of the pedal and just lean on it slightly, you can get a really delicate transition to braking, to retardation, without, all the jerkiness that comes from having to be overly sensitive at the top of the brake pedal, because there's too much resistance there. So peeling through another little Suffolk village, we're kind of coming to the end of this video. I hope you've got a little sense of the Project 981 philosophy. Is it a philosophy? Is it a doctrine? Is it an ethos? I'm not quite sure really. It's my way of doing things to that theme, as I said at the top of the video, of touch the car, improve the car. And there's a reason why it's called Project 981, because we've got a bit of direction and a sense of travel. But yeah, more to come, notably on that dynamic mount for the transmission. But I think as I approach the national speed limit sign, we'll do one little blast down here. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, do look at some of the other videos on the channel. A like and subscribe, always welcome. In the meantime, it's been fun having you along, and I will see you for the next one. Right, 2nd gear, off we go.